I'm Lisa Roberts, I'm the counselor here at Sherwood.
Yeah, I'm Taylor Wilson, the behavior specialist. Okay, so. That's what's holding up my phone.
Oh, it's fine.
It's very high tech.
We've already talked about it. I can still see. It's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll make sure it doesn't fall on my phone.
Yeah, I'm actually literally watching it for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mess up the whole thing.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started.
We'll go ahead and get started. So why is this important for us to talk about screen addiction tonight? Psychologists are learning that dopamine from screens is impairing our children's impulse control. It increases the demand for instant gratification. And this is why screens and electronics run the risk of keeping children in a chronic state of hyperarousal, leaving them agitated yet somewhat exhausted.
Okay, so why are screens so addictive? So, as adults, we hear a notification go off on our phone, ding, that acts as the cue, picking up our phone, starting scrolling, that's the routine. We see something we like on our phones, our brains get flooded with dopamine, the happiness or pleasure neurotransmitter, and that gives us the reward, which causes cravings. And so then we're on an endless loop of wanting to go on our screens to get that release of dopamine and feel good. For children, for example, if they like to play video games, their cue might be feeling bored at home, seeing a gaming console, a controller, something like that, acts as their cue. They pick it up and start playing, acts as their routine, they start winning, enjoying it, get that dopamine release, which is the reward, which acts as a craving. And a lot of times we're seeing kids are feeling really discouraged in other areas of their lives if they compare themselves to their classmates and they're not as high academically or something, but then they're really good at video games, then it's even harder to break this addiction because that ends up being the only part of their lives that they feel confident in. And so we want to make sure we're being really mindful of building their confidence in other areas.
And the way that diagnoses are labeled is through something called the DSM. So we're going to talk a little bit about that for a second. So currently the 5th edition of the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which is called the DSM-5, does recognize internet gaming as the only addictive disorder related to screens. And the following is the criteria for that. However, we believe that we know there's other screen addictions besides just internet gaming. So it does fit if you just kind of tweak it a little bit. So preoccupation with the internet games, so preoccupation with any kind of technology, withdrawal symptoms, irritability, anxiety or sadness when internet gaming is taken away, building up a tolerance, unsuccessful attempts to control the gaming, loss of interest in previous hobbies, continued excessive use of internet games, being dishonest about the amount of time spent gaming, the use of internet games to escape, and then resulting in negative consequences in other aspects of your life, such as failing a class, or it could be a lot of different things, losing friendships, losing a job, just depends.
Okay, so we're going to jump into the effects of excessive screen time, but I do want to talk about, we're listing a lot of information on here, and a lot of times it's hard to see what these effects can happen, especially if it's happening to your own children. So we definitely don't want the message to be that you feel shame or guilt about anything. We just want the message to be, we're going to help you find a balance. And so, I mean, and I need to do this in my own life because I'm the type of person that if I see a notification on my phone, I have to get that out of there. This one has about 5,000 notifications on her phone, and it doesn't bother her at all. But we all have our own thing, so we need to find a balance. But let's jump into the effects of excessive screen time.
So there are lots of effects of excessive screen time. So brains aren't developing at the rate or in the ways they should, and kids are not using their creativity or their interpersonal skills is one of the effects.
You may see that they're having more difficulty learning or could be below grade level.
It can be responsible for speech delays.
Trouble with fine motor skills such as handwriting or tying their shoes, but at the same time, using actual video games has been shown to actually increase some fine motor skills using the hand-eye coordination. So we're just more talking about like the repetitive motion of doing something on a screen or just staring at a screen is lacking. They're not able to go out in their environments and explore and use their hands like they used to.
It can result in more tantrums and less regulation, and when we say regulation, we mean being able to regulate their emotions, so that can be an outcome.
It leads to more attention problems. We're seeing more diagnoses of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD.
It could impair social skills or make it have difficulty making friendships and keeping friendships just because they're not able to practice those social skills as much.
Increases aggression and emotional problems.
It can escalate addiction and reward-seeking behavior,
Can cause vision problems.
and it can contribute to obesity.
And can cause sleep problems. So I can't stress enough how important it is to keep screens away from kids at bedtime and to try to have a set bedtime routine at a decent hour.
This part's really cool. So, like I said, Taylor put together this presentation, and part of this presentation is she actually put together a survey for our school. So for the kids in this school, they took a survey. So we sent out a survey for our students, and one question was asked with 6 options, and they could only choose one answer. So the question was, if you could choose one of these activities to do after school, which would you choose? You can select one option. Number 1 was board game, number 2 was a video game, 3 was play with toys, 4 was watch TV, 5 was play outside, and 6 play on a tablet. And before we do it, anyone have any guesses about what it might look like? Any guesses?
Video games, TV and tablet.
You think video games will be top? Any other ideas? Yeah?
Okay, so
Yeah.
here are the results. So we surveyed 291 students, and out of those, 3% chose to play a board game, 51% chose video games, 6% said play with toys, 7% said watch TV, 24% said play outside, and 9% said play on a tablet. So 67% of our students prefer to be on technology than any other activity.
That's a lot. But I'm glad 24% wanted to go outside.
I know, that was a
Yay
big
for
number.
outside. Yay for outside.
Okay, so the following are signs that your child is at risk of developing a screen addiction or that they might already have a screen addiction. So first we have behavior and emotional signs. They prefer time with screens over time with people. They become frustrated when they cannot have screen time. You might have seen they've thrown or broken a controller or broken one of their devices out of anger. Screen time is how they cope with their big feelings, and they can lack concern or empathy for others.
And then we have social and communication signs. They might have, like we've mentioned this before, have a hard time making or retaining friends, preferring messaging over face-to-face communication. We see that a lot. Has difficulty starting or staying in a discussion, and difficulty reading facial expressions.
Some physical signs are lack of showing interest or withdrawing from sports or other forms of physical activity, having trouble falling asleep or maintaining a healthy sleep routine, or your child might be showing black patches under their eyes or complaining of headaches.
There are also some cognitive or thinking signs. Having difficulty being present, struggling academically, talking excessively about video games, or all their topics of conversation revolve around games or video games.
All right, so let's take a look at a screen time guideline broken down by age group according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. So again, this is just a guide.
Oh. 18 to 24 months. Why did I have that? And I don't think I have it.
It's on the back, I think. Like flip the whole thing around.
I'm missing that page.
No, that's it. You just
Wait, 18 to 24 months?
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
we don't have 0 to?
No, because
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. It is recommended that toddlers under the age of 18 months should not have any screen time.
Okay, so toddlers ages 18 to 24 months should have less than 1 hour of screen time per day.
This is a critical developmental period for children, and they should get as much physical and creative interaction with people as possible.
Parents should try to co-watch high-quality educational content with them to help them understand what they're seeing. So does anyone have any little ones that age? No? Okay, well I do, and so for him, he watches this YouTube channel called Miss Rachel, and it tried to mimics, so this age or younger, they say the only time on screen should be like video chatting with someone else. It shouldn't be this quick going cartoons or something that's overstimulating for their brains. And so Miss Rachel does a good job. She teaches sign language and speech and things like that. So again, high quality educational content.
And the next age is 2 to 5 years. So toddlers and young children from 2 to 5 years should have up to 1 hour of screen time per day.
All right, so parents should help their children understand what they're seeing and apply it to the world around them. So if your child loves the movie Frozen, then buy Anna and Elsa dolls, Frozen Play-Doh games. If they like Minecraft, same sort of thing. Try to find things that you can buy for them so they can connect with their beloved characters off of the screens as well.
And although 1 hour is recommended, things like family movie nights with age-appropriate content can be a really good way to connect as a family. But don't expect a really young child to sit through a full movie. Next we have 6 to 10 years. Elementary age kids, so kids that you guys have here at our school. Elementary age children should have up to 1.5 hours of screen time per day.
Place consistent limits on time spent using media and the types of media being consumed.
Since they are now entering school, make sure that screens don't become a habit before homework gets completed.
While developing tech skills is very important, try to aim for a balance of creative and relaxed time.
And make sure the media does not take the place of adequate sleep, physical activity, or other behaviors that are essential to good health. Next we have 11 years and up. So preteens and older should have up to 2 hours per day.
At this age, children can understand the concept of balance. It is up to parents to help them see how screen time fits into their schedule.
If you find your child is really getting into a certain video game for a week or two, gently try to help them understand the benefits of moderation.
Help your child understand that recognizing when we are spending too much time doing any one thing is a valuable skill.
And by high school, teens should be able to understand the concept of addiction and moderation and have healthy routines for screen time, hopefully.
Okay, so where do I start with setting healthier boundaries around screen time? This is a lot of information. Here we go. All right, so it is one thing to say that you want to better manage your child's screen time, but is another to make lasting changes. It's not realistic to ask your children to cut screen time out completely, but making small changes is the best way to create long-term behavior changes. So here are 10 suggestions that could make a lasting difference in your household.
Number 1, create a screen time schedule. First, establish your screen time limit and then sit down with your children and let them figure out how they plan to use it. A good rule of thumb for everyone is to avoid using screens during meals or within an hour of bedtime. And there's actually a kind of a cool thing over here, a little piece of paper called I think it's called a cell phone parking lot that you could put on your table and people could park their cell phones during meals. I thought that was a really cute idea. So we have those over there, that's fun. Research shows that when screen time is planned, children are much less upset when it is time to put it away. If you're going with 1.5 hours for elementary students, for example, they might get screen time from 4 to 5:30, and then you have dinner, and then you could do a family activity before bed. We recommend setting a timer 5 minutes before screen time is over so they have some time to prepare themselves and wrap up before what they're doing before they put the screen down. And I wanted to talk a little bit about timers. Timers are very magical with kids if you have not used them. We use them as educators a lot, and it still floors me after 30 years of how when you set a timer and you tell a child what's going to happen when the timer goes off, really 9 times out of 10 they will actually do what you say when the timer goes off. It's great. So really try it. If you haven't tried it, please try it. And when it's bedtime, make sure the charging station is away from their beds or turn the Wi-Fi off after a certain time so they aren't tempted. That one's really hard, but it's really important because a lot of times parents don't know that their kids are sneaking their phone at night and on it until all hours, and then we see a lot of kids really, really tired at school.
Alright, so number 2, avoid using screens as a reward or punishment. So this one's a little bit more controversial because a lot of our go-to is, okay, screens are taken away because you're in trouble. So researchers recommend that you have a routine for screen times that stays consistent. Screen time is not dependent on getting anything else done except for homework, if that's a family value you establish. If screen time is part of their regular routine, they're more likely to keep healthy boundaries around it. One thing I might add is rather than taking screen time away completely as a punishment, you might take their phone or preferred device away, but they still get to watch TV or documentary as a family or learn something, do some kind of learning game. So I think when I read about this one, I think about like dessert, for example. So when you grow up having your dessert as a reward for being good or taken away for being bad, a lot of times as adults we overindulge in something that was really highly restricted as a child. So that's why it's saying to try to have a consistent boundary limit around this, so that way they're not going to abuse it later in life.
Number 3, tell them your why. Be clear about why you want to limit screens or change the way kids use screens. Talk about your values as a parent, the things you value more than screens. Talk about wanting a more connected family, more outdoor adventures, or a healthier body. Also tell them about the addictive nature and adverse effects of screens based on their age and their comprehension.
Number 4, find creative and engaging indoor activities. By offering new and exciting activities, you can keep your child entertained without a screen. You might say, phone time is over now, but I'm really excited to play a board game with you. Some activities you can find around your house include create a scavenger hunt, make household items into instruments, make blanket forts, cook or bake together, make chores fun, or anything else that encourages your child to engage in deep and meaningful play. And we have brochures available that have some more ideas for indoor games, and then a link to a website on there as well.
Play and connect over technology. Connecting over technology can be a really great thing to bring you closer to your children. Learn something new together, help your kids with their research homework, or watch a documentary as a family. This tip is less about limiting screen times and more about connecting over them.
Number 6, co-watch whenever possible. If your children are going to have screen time, the best thing you can do is sit and watch with them so they can understand what they're watching. Familiarize yourself with all of the social media apps they have on their devices and make sure they're watching age-appropriate content. The R rating is for 17 and older for a reason, because young minds cannot process that material the same way we can. It can be very traumatizing for them.
And consistency is key. Cutting your child's screen time will cause conflicts, for sure. You need to remain calm and tell your child why these rules are necessary for their health. And in the end, you have greater sleep, reduced eye strain, improved health, and it will benefit both you and your child.
Number 8, address digital etiquette. So children and young adults must learn that online interaction should follow the same social guidelines as face-to-face encounters. Conversations about appropriate content, etiquette, empathy, and safety should occur early on. Add parental controls to devices. We recommend using YouTube Kids over YouTube.
Number 9, let your kids make mistakes. As your child learns about the media, they're bound to make mistakes. Use these mistakes as teachable moments. Handle with empathy instead of a time for punishment. Help them understand that what gets put on the internet is there forever.
And then everyone's favorite tip is limit your own phone use first, which is going to be difficult. But as much as we would like to say, do as I say, not as I do, we are the most influential people in our children's lives. So your children will be more inclined to follow your lead if they see you following your own rules and being active. Okay, so we have a couple of video clips we wanted to share with you. These are pretty quick.
One day my daughter and her friend came over and they want their phones the whole time. So I said, that's it, this is a play date. I want to see you play. After 5 minutes, I'm taking away your phone. Okay, there was silence for like they were playing. I was so happy. I was like, feeling so satisfied. As a conscious parent, look, see, if you just have boundaries, then the kids will go and find their imagination. 10 minutes later, they come knocking on my door, right? I'm like, what, why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you in my space? I'm like, shut the laptop. Why are you here? They're like, can we put makeup on your face? She's going to do half of the work. I'm like, should I tell her to go back to their screen? And then I realized that now this is what the problem is. Like, if they're not on their screens, they want you. So when you lay that boundary, are you willing to connect to your children and play with them? This is it. You have to find something and be captivating. So you have to, be willing that when you're taking that away, they're coming for you. So don't be like, I'm cooking, I'm busy, and now then you're like, create the space, build that connection. So every day, find a way to get in there and build connection. Doesn't mean hugging your kid, doesn't mean they have to talk to you about their deepest concerns and problems. It just means in some way, you both are together in a non-screen environment, engaging.
"98% of American homes with children now have an electronic mobile device. And on average, kids 8 and under spend more than 2 hours a day looking at a screen. Is that too much? Or could there actually be developmental benefits to screen time? This is Your Brain On, where we explore how the world affects our brains and ourselves. Young brains need a lot of external stimuli to develop, particularly from birth to age 3, what's known as the critical period. It's during this time that children's neurons are making connections for fundamental skills such as vision, hearing, and language. But these needs are based on centuries of human evolution, which used to have nothing to do with screens. Consider a child watching a video instead of listening to parents read a book. It's a far different experience for the brain. Rather than kids learning to focus and imagine the story, the device presents everything to them, so certain cognitive systems become underdeveloped. And when children spend too much time in front of a screen rather than interacting with people, they can have stunted development of the frontal lobe, part of the brain that decodes social interactions. It can become more difficult to develop empathy or learn social cues like facial expressions. What's more, the stimuli from a screen can be a lot. Colors, sounds, stories, all at a super fast pace. That can be sensory overload, releasing stress hormones such as cortisol. It can also overactivate the brain's reward systems, like the addictive hormone dopamine, getting kids used to immediate gratification they wouldn't get in the real world. So most scientists and doctors agree that screen time can alter young, still-forming brains, but in some ways, that change can be positive. Take the results of one recent study that exposed young mice 6 hours daily to audiovisual stimuli similar to those found in a video game. After 10 days, the mice showed signs of hyperactivity, impaired learning, and risk-taking. But the mice also stayed calm in an environment that usually would have stressed them out. Some scientists now argue screen time can help prepare a child's brain for our increasingly fast-paced, high-stimulus world. So, screen time isn't always bad, and it isn't all created equal either. An educational letter-matching game isn't the same as a violent movie. As with many things, the key is moderation, limiting daily screen time and making sure the child can function in all of modern life, not only with screens, but in the real world too.
One day my daughter...
98%.
Okay, parental control apps. So you're most likely here because you want to learn more about how to manage screen time or what to look for when it comes to screen addiction in kids. But there's a good chance that you do something now that could help another parent. So let's start with how you set up parental controls on devices. Are there apps that you guys use, settings that you found to be effective? Anybody want to share anything? Because you guys probably are experts on some things that we don't know about.
We use RPAC.
Okay,
What's it called? RPAP?
RPAC, this one here.
Okay.
I just stay in the room. I don't go far, and my 14-year-old is actually on her phone less than most people, so I can't really.
We had a parent
complain about that.
actually write into our school today that she uses the Bark app, and she was just giving information about it, and she said it costs $99 a year, which is it's a little spendy. Some of these I think are free, but she said that it really helps her monitor everything that her kids are doing, which is great.
The school district uses Bark
And
too.
this, yes.
Yeah.
And it
We
gives
use
you,
it.
it gives
So
us,
it's immediate, like, well, within probably 10 minutes, if there's a certain word, certain topics that are written in that would be alarming, like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about here? Like that kind of thing that wouldn't be educationally, that it sends us an email and then we can be right on it just that, like that fast.
Does it work for apps like Snapchat and stuff?
I don't think so. Because really, it's connecting, at school, it's monitoring our computer use. So like if someone had their cell phone connected to our Wi-Fi, it wouldn't be monitoring that. It's monitoring their school accounts. And I don't know if Bark can't do that. That's just the package that we have as a school.
Well, when I tried it on Facebook, when I was connected to your Wi-Fi, I couldn't, so obviously it stopped it from doing something.
So Bark doesn't do that, but our filter does.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Our filter stops from getting onto Snapchat,
But all you have to do is turn off the Wi-Fi.
turn off the Wi-Fi and use your data.
Yeah.
But a lot of our kids
Right.
have cell phones that only use
That's true.
Wi-Fi. They
That's
don't use data, so that's another little tricky poo for parents if
Yeah.
you have those kind of devices. Nope, you can only use it on Wi-Fi. Can't
Yeah.
use the data.
Okay. So what if these changes are just too hard and I don't set boundaries around screen time? So what we know, if we continued on the path of allowing our children to have unstructured and endless screen time, they will struggle with their physical and mental health, academics, and relationships. Our fears as educators is that children will spend their days in school in a more agitated state, unable to focus, transition, or problem solve, and they will not meet their full potential. Let's break the cycle, recover from the aftermath of COVID, and set our children up for success.
And do you guys have any questions? We are gonna do one more thing after questions, but does anyone have any questions or comments?
I'm wondering how much screen time they have at school, because I know that that's a big part of learning now is
So with the
Screens.
screen time guideline, it's talking about like a preferred dopamine release type
I
activity.
get that, but eyesight's a thing
Well,
too.
there's a teacher right back there, so you.
And so, you
In
know,
my classroom, I only allot 15 minutes for reading to get on iReady,
Mhm.
and that's academic. 15 minutes for math during our rotations for skills, and any other websites that I want my kids on is Google Classroom. We hardly do learning games.
Okay,
If
but
we do
it's
games, it's centered.
monitored at a small
Yeah,
time.
so in my class, like the kids are not even
I
on it
think
an hour.
most
a
teachers
week.
are about that because
Yeah.
iReady has a goal for
Mhm.
each week and
Right.
it's about 10 to 15 minutes each day for each subject. So I think
Yeah.
it's very comparable to that, don't you think?
Yeah.
Well, and that tends to be how I limit my son at home is
Yeah.
small amounts of time throughout the day, so that, and like you said, timers
Timers
are
are great.
magical.
They're your best
And
friend.
you know
It's
my son and his
Mhm.
anger, and it's not a thing for him as long as he knows.
Mm-hmm.
You have 5 more minutes. Oh, okay. Let me do the house that I'm building or whatever it is, and then it's okay, and it's almost never a problem. It's very helpful.
I have a kid timer that I use on my phone too with kids, and it has a hidden picture when the clock is
Like wipes
finished.
it off instead
Yes,
of
and then the
shows.
picture starts showing as it's almost up, and then at the end it makes some kind of noise that goes with the picture, and the kids love it.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Really, thank you for that question, because I think that's so important, and I know, the last slide had something about COVID, and I know that was really difficult
That is a
too during
big
COVID,
thing.
because we were online
It was all,
for everything.
well, same thing for me. I'm going to college and
Yeah.
it's all screens all day.
And my son's still in college, and the majority of his classes are still online.
Yeah, it's,
Which is crazy, but that is how our world is working.
well, and it's hard to limit, like you said, limit yourself. My son sees me on my computer all day. And a lot of times I keep him quiet by having him be on his tablet in mommy's office so mommy can do her school. So it's a little tricky, because you're right, they do want you when they're not on their tablets, and you don't always have the time.
I love that video clip. I
Yeah,
love that.
it's
mom.
true.
So, yeah.
They
She puts
want
her-
you.
They want to put makeup on
Yeah.
her, and it's like, oh my
Like,
god.
wait a
that's so
minute.
good.
It's not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
important that they learn how to entertain themselves too, though.
Mhm.
It's not all about entertaining. They can't be entertained by other people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If
true.
screens aren't doing it and we're doing it, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
They have to be able to play with Legos on their own or
Yeah.
color a picture on their own. They
Mhm.
have to have that.
I agree,
Thanks
but I
for
do think
pointing
it's a balance.
It
and I
is
think
balance.
the
Everything's
connection
balanced.
part
I think that's the
really
point.
important.
Yeah.
Too.
Were there
So-
any other questions? Okay, so we do have this resource if anyone is interested, and we have some Chromebooks already set up with the website open, but It's a family media usage plan